The police were banging on my front gate like I was some criminal mastermind. Their cruisers lined up outside my ranch, red and blue lights cutting through the Texas morning. 4 squad cars at my door just because of a fence? Yeah, that happened. One officer grabbed a bullhorn and ordered me to step away from the gate. But I hadn't robbed a bank or broken any laws. I just reinforced the metal cattle gate I'd always had, doubling the steel after someone rammed it with a pickup to send a message. That morning was different, though. The homeowners association, HOA, I never joined, sued me, claiming I was blocking a public road they'd carved straight through the middle of my private land. A road that didn't exist until 3 months ago. It split my pasture in half, spooked my horses, and treated me like a squatter on my own ranch. Backed by the law, they wanted me to open the gate and let their world spill into mine. Calm but firm, I told the officers this was private land and the road was illegal. One cop warned me to unlock the gate or face forced entry. I stood my ground, no unlocking, and banned every HOA member from stepping foot on my property. The officers hesitated until my wife Emily came out with a folder, cool and steady, telling them to check the property lines before making a mistake they'd regret. That's when everything started to unravel. I'm Jack Coleman, 56, a retired firefighter, who's called this 100-acre Texas ranch home for nearly 2 decades. Emily's a paralegal, sharp, and twice as determined. We moved here after my spinal injury forced me to leave the firehouse, seeking peace, space, horses, and honesty. I kept to myself, paid taxes, donated hay to animal shelters, and let local school kids visit every spring to learn ranch life. I'm nobody's enemy. So when the fancy new subdivision next door formed their HOA, I minded my own fence, until bulldozers rolled onto my land uninvited. At first I thought it was a mistake. Then I hobbled over, old injury aching, and saw Curtis, one of the HOA board members, smirking while his crew carved a road through my pasture. When I asked what it was doing there, he said it was an access road voted on for emergencies and school buses, claiming it increased property values. I laughed. They never asked me, never notified me, never got a permit. Curtis shrugged and mentioned eminent domain, but he was bluffing. Emily tore through county records, maps, and deeds. That road wasn't legal. No vote, no permit, no easement. They just built it and demanded I keep it open. So, I did what any proud landowner would. Reinforced the gate, installed a camera, hung big no trespassing signs, and locked it down. That night, someone rammed their car through the gate, wrecked the fence, and hurt one of my mares. The next morning, there was a note on the mailbox. Enjoy your little protest. You'll hear from our lawyers. Sure enough, 2 days later, a lawsuit arrived claiming I was violating their right-of-way. I couldn't sleep. Sitting at the table with old family photos, I thought about my dad and what he'd do. We always told our kids to do the right thing, even when no one's watching. But what do you do when bullies act in broad daylight? Emily and I refused to back down. We hired a surveyor, a real estate attorney, and started documenting everything. Dates, license plates, videos. I read the HOA bylaws inside and out and discovered their power ends where their property ends. Curtis and his crew didn't slow down. They called me a public danger, spread rumors, even got a local paper to print a hit piece titled, Man, Block School Route for Ranch Standoff. Emily wanted to fight fire with fire, but I told her to let the facts speak. Then came today, the cops at my gate. What they didn't know was Emily had already filed a cease and desist order that morning. Judge Danielson, an old no-nonsense man with a booming voice, signed it. As an officer stepped forward, a black SUV rolled up behind the cruisers. Curtis went pale as Emily stepped out, flanked by 2 U.S. Marshals and the judge himself. The yard went silent. "Who's in charge here?" the judge barked. The deputy started to answer, but the judge cut him off. "No, I am, and I have an emergency injunction. This land is private. This road is illegal. The HOA is in violation of state law." Curtis tried to speak, but the judge silenced him with a look. "Touch this land again and you'll be arrested for contempt of court. Do I make myself clear?" Curtis looked ready to faint. The officers retreated. I stepped forward and handed over video evidence showing HOA members vandalizing my property and a hit and run that injured my horse. Curtis tried to slip away, but the marshal stopped him cold. This was only the tip of the iceberg. Months earlier, I'd seen developers scouting the fence line, laughing about how easy it was to take land from an old cowboy. Emily discovered that the HOA had forged documents, falsely claiming part of my ranch was vacant and up for grabs. They ignored our complaints, let their kids race through my fields, and even asked to throw parties in my barn. Things got ugly. Someone cut my fences, spray painted over cameras, and left a torn "This is an over" sign on my property. But I was building my own case, stacking witness statements, photos, and even getting a whistleblower from the construction crew who provided proof the HOA knew their actions were illegal. Emily drafted a lawsuit and we went public, posting everything online. The story went viral, and suddenly, we weren't fighting alone. One night, I caught teenagers from the HOA side with gasoline, ready to burn my barn down. The sheriff arrested them. It turned out one was Curtis's son. The next day, the HOA sued me again, this time for harassment, but we stood firm. Judge Daniels granted us a protective order banning any HOA member from setting foot on my land. Then the DA uncovered evidence that Curtis and other board members had tampered with county records and were facing criminal charges. That should have been the end, but my barn still burned to the ground in an arson confirmed by the fire chief. Footage showed Curtis's son and two masked adults pouring gasoline. In court, Curtis was handcuffed and his lawyer left speechless. Judge Daniels ruled in our favor, granting a permanent easement and protecting every inch of our land. But, just when it seemed safe, another threat arrived. A drone dropped a package with a photo of our ranch marked with a red X and the words, "You're not safe yet." The sheriff said it was someone in the HOA, scared of what Curtis might reveal. Curtis died confessing that Sandra, the HOA president, was the real mastermind, siphoning money, bribing county clerks, and filing fraudulent plans for parks and developments that included our land. Sandra fled but was caught by the feds. Then, Curtis called from jail. He said the true boss was Troy Maddox, the developer who sold Ridgeway the land and forged the easement papers. "Be careful, Jack. He's dangerous." I called in a favor from an old friend, a retired investigator, who uncovered Troy's history of scams, fraud, bribery, and illegal developments across 3 states. We took the whole file to court. Judge Daniels banned Troy from my land, flagged his developments for review, and the DA opened a criminal case. Still, the Ridgeway HOA kept filing appeals, hoping to wear us down with money and stress. But we kept fighting. The media picked up our story, donations poured in, and even a state senator introduced a bill to stop HOAs from overreaching, sparked by what we endured. For a moment, peace returned. My horses were safe, Emily at my side, a new steel gate, locking out the world. Then a new letter arrived from the Federal Land Bureau, offering to negotiate for our land as part of a major infrastructure project. Standing there with the paper in hand, Emily reading over my shoulder, we realized this fight was never just about fences or roads. It was about standing up to anyone, private or public, who thinks they can steal what's yours. So we went public again. Press conferences, social media, and an alliance of neighbors from across Texas. When a government surveyor arrived, they found a wall of people along my fence line. Teachers, veterans, ranchers, students, all saying, "You can't steal roots. This land is our story." The feds backed off. We turned our ranch into a conservancy, protected and untouchable. No longer for sale, no longer for taking. Now, as I stand by my rebuilt barn with horses grazing under, the morning sun and Emily's arms around me, I know we did more than win a lawsuit. We proved that no matter how strong your enemy seems, justice is stronger when you fight together. If you're out there facing bullies, lawsuits, or badges, remember, you have a voice, you have rights, and you are never, ever alone. So, what do you think? Did we go too far or not far enough? Where does justice end and community begin? Let me know, because this story isn't just mine anymore, it's all of ours.